friends, it's Christy, and I'm so excited to be back with you on the My Favorite Things YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be making a card using the Happy Llamadays stamp set. I just love these guys. So I've stamped out my images in Extreme Black Hybrid ink on some Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth Premium White cardstock, and I'm going to be coloring with my Copic markers. I wanted my llama to be a nice soft beige, so I chose E40, E41, and E42 for the woolly parts. I started with that E42 and began to lay in some shadows, and then I'm going to blend that out with the E41, just making sure to catch the edge of that E42 and pull it into the white space so I get a nice smooth blend. Once I'm finished with the E41, I'll grab the E40 and I'm going to fill in most of the rest of the white space. I am going to leave a few little white areas for some nice highlight. Then I'll move down to the hooves and I'm going to color those with E44 and E47. So I use the E47 at the back and then blended forward with the E44. I'm also going to add a little E44 to the muzzle and blend that out with the E43. And then I'll add some rosy cheeks and color in the insides of the ears with the R11 and R20. Then I'll add R22 into the mix and use this combo to color in two of the gifts. So I'm going to use the R22 down at the bottom and then blend up with the R20 and finish with the R11 at the top. And then I'll just randomly choose another gift that is not touching the first one, and that way I can spread that color a little bit more around the scene. I'm also going to use these shades to color in the llama's scarf. So I'll use that R22 first once again to add a little shading on either side of the neck and then also to the long part of the scarf that is blowing behind, and then blend out with the R20 and R11 once again. And I'll be adding some more detail to that and also some of the gifts a little bit later on. But now I'm going to move on to my red combo. I'm using R22 once again, but I've added R24 and R29 to that. And I'm going to use that to color in my sleigh so it can be a nice Christmas red. So I started with the R29 at the bottom and then up the back side of that sleigh. And then I'm blending up with the R24. And then I'll use the R22 for my highlight shade. So my darkest from the previous combo has now become the lightest for this combo, so everything will match really nicely. And then I'll also use that combo to color in two more of the gifts in the sleigh. Since I already have the big red sleigh, I decided to go with two of the smaller gifts in the stack so that it just spreads that color a little bit more equally around the scene. So I just blended with the darkest at the bottom and the lightest at the top. And then I'm going to move on to a nice turquoise combo, which is BG45 and BG49. I'm going to do the outer rim of that little blanket on the back of the llama's back, and then I will add two more gifts to the stack here with this combo as well. Just once again starting at the bottom with the darker shade, which is the BG49, and then blending up with the BG45. And then on the second gift, I'm just going to take that BG49 a little bit higher since I'm only using two shades, which is something I rarely do, but these colors just blend so nicely together. So I went up almost halfway with that BG49 and then blended in with the BG45, and that way I could get a nice transition from the darkest to the lightest. Next up is my favorite aqua combination, which is BG10, BG11, and BG13. That BG13 is actually pretty close to the BG45 that I just used, so I only used a touch of that and then blended out with the BG11 and the BG10. And I'm going to finish off the stacks of gifts in the sleigh with this combination as well. That BG11 is just one of my favorite colors. It's just so pretty. For the cacti, I wanted them to be green, but not too yellow of a green, because I didn't think that would go very well with the coloring that I've already done. So I went with some blue greens, which is G00, G02, and G03. I used that G03 to outline all of the artist drawn lines and then put the highlights in the center so that they looked really nice and dimensional. And I did that same combo for all three of the cacti. And then for the stars on top, I used Y35 and Y38, just the two shades since they're really small. And I also used that combo to do the reins for the llama that's pulling the sleigh. So I just added a bit of that Y38 on the outside edges and then blended out the center of each of those little lines with the Y35. So now I'm ready to add some details and color in the little strands of lights on the cacti. So I pulled out 4 of the colors that I've previously used: BG11, R22, BG49, and R29, and I'm going to color those in. And then I started to add some little kind of candy cane stripes to my llama's scarf, and you're going to see here in just a minute that I had an accident with this red pen. Normally when I have a leaky Copic, I can fix it, but red is notoriously difficult to fix. I tried my best, it just wasn't working. So I had to recolor my images, and I added some details with those shades, and now I'm grabbing a white gel pen to add even more details. So I'm just adding some more little lines and cross marks to make a nice plaid on the llama's scarf, going right over the red lines to just incorporate everything all together. And I'm going to do the same on the red gift that's down at the bottom, just turning my paper so that I can get some nice straight lines there. I'm also going to add some polka dots on one of the darker aqua gifts, just doing little circles there in straight lines to make them evenly dispersed. And I even did another plaid gift. I just made the plaid a lot more spread apart so that it had a different look to it. Then I took a black gel pen and went over the eye of my llama and trimmed all the images out with their matching dies. For my background, I've taken the second largest of the Wonky stitch rectangle stacks and die cut that out of some Bristol smooth surface cardstock. And I want to create a nice, cool, wintry sky. So I'm starting with some Salvage Patina Distress Oxide ink and doing kind of like a semicircle, almost like a rainbow shape on the outside edges. So I'm making sure to add that color to the 2 sides and the top, but leaving that bottom area white for now. Then I'm going to darken that up with some peacock feathers, just going right over the edge, making sure to add a lot of color where that stitching detail is so it really stands out. And then I'll go back to my Salvage Patina and blend that closer to the center. And I went back and forth between those 2 shades one more time to make sure that everything was nice and bright the way I wanted it. And then I added some splatter detail with the Gansai Tambi Starry colors. I used the pearl colors. You could also use some perfect pearls. My camera died at that moment and I didn't realize it, so I did miss that footage, but you will see the end result in just a little bit. Then I took one of the Stitch Scallop Basic Edges number 2 and die cut that out of some more white cardstock so that I could stamp my sentiment on that. and I'm doing Happy Llamadays in a nice bright red to match that coloring. Stamped out perfectly the first time. So then I'll pop my card base in my MISTI so I can stamp on the inside of the card. I'm using some snow cone cardstock, and I chose the 2 forward-facing llamas and the sentiment that says, "Llama be the first to say Merry Christmas," which is just so cute and clever. So then I'm going to choose some pattern paper from the Cool Collab 6x6. I want to choose 3 different patterns. I really liked this stripy print. That was the inspiration for my coloring. And then I chose this turquoise with the pinstripe and a red and white polka dot. I trimmed the 2 stripy prints down with the largest of the A2 stitch rectangle stacks set 2 and the red polka dot with the smallest of the stitch jumbo fishtail flags. So I'm going to glue the colorful stripe down first to my card front. It's going to leave just the barest little border of that snow cone cardstock showing through. And then I'm going to add my turquoise pinstripe. Normally I would not layer stripes on top of one another, but that stripe is so thin that it's almost like a solid, and the stripes line up really well together as well. So I think it totally works. And then I'll add the little fishtail flag down at the bottom over toward the left. I added some foam tape to the back of my focal panel, so I'm going to pop that up on my card front right where I want it, making sure that it's nice and straight. And once that is pressed down, I will add my snowy border and just make sure that that is straight with the bottom edge of that focal point. Then I'll bring in my images, and I'm going to start with the llama pulling the sleigh. I always like to start with my largest image first so I can just set the scene around that. So I'm making sure to get glue on all of those little bits so it'll be pressed down really nicely. And I'm going to add that at kind of like a tilt on that scene, so it almost looks like the llama is about to take off and fly in the sky like a reindeer. And then I've got my 2 cacti, so I'm going to put the one that is slightly different style over on the left-hand side, and then the one that is similar to the one in the sleigh, I'm going to put that over on the right side, just to spread those images around a bit too. And I did pop a little piece of foam tape underneath the little arms that are hanging over. Then I added a bit of Stardust stickles to a few little places on my scene. I did the stars on the tops of the cacti and also to the outer edge of that little saddle blanket, and also to the 2 gifts that don't have any other details so that they have something special about them too. And then I'll pick that up to the camera so you can see how that catches the light and really sparkles, that snow plus the stickles. And I'll give you another peek at the inside as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed the October edition of Christy Gets Crafty with my favorite things. If you did, please be sure to hit the like button and leave me a comment down below. I love chatting with you guys. Subscribe to my favorite things for more inspiring videos just like these here on screen. Bye-bye.